This today marks a major turning point in ARC Minerals' future. We've concluded what I think is a fantastic deal for our shareholders. Join up with one of the industry's largest and most respected players, Anglo-American. Why is this so valuable to us? Well, firstly, we're partnering with a major, being Anglo, with a huge amount of level of expertise in this part of Zambia, particularly given that they used to own a very large tracts of exploration ground here, including ours, and the other part of the Dome region, which, as you know, houses today 3 very large copper operations. Secondly, we are privileged to be partnering with one of the best technical and geo teams in the industry. And I've been hugely impressed with what I've seen to date, and we've worked very closely with them. Thirdly, we're about to start a very large drilling program that we hope will unearth a very large major tier 1 deposit. This Domes region is one of the most attractive, undiscovered copper regions, certainly our area, in my view, in the world, particularly given that it's situated in a very stable region like Zambia, unlike more other hairy places in the world that one could go to. And lastly, and very importantly, ARC retains a significant stake at 30% with our partners, and this de-risks ARC in a very significant way. Unlike previous exclusivity agreements, and this is where I think, I've had some questions coming in this morning, this is a binding agreement. So it marks a sea change to anything else that we've announced in the past. Obviously, it's subject to closing out some regulatory approvals, but really, people, this is it. So just to summarize what the deal is, so $74 million of investment into the ground, which is a very large amount if you look at any of the other exploration deals that have been done in the past. And then obviously also $14.5 million in cash phased over the next few years, which is again a fantastic outcome for us as ARC. Phase 1 sees Anglo investing over $24 million to get to the 51% over 3 years. And by the way, this can be expedited under the terms of the joint venture, should they obviously find something very significant in the shorter term. Phase 2 then to get to 60%, so further 9%, further $20 million gets invested into the ground. And then phase 3 to get to the 70%, a further 10%, and that's over 2 years for $30 million. So a very significant amount of investment into the ground. The rainy season is now coming to a close, and we've started work on planning for drilling. And once we close out the various CPs, which I hope will be a relatively short exercise, the plan is certainly to start drilling as soon as we can. And will there be news flow? Of course there will. I can't promise what it is, but we are very excited as our Anglo to get going. And lastly, really on a personal note, I've worked on a number of deals in my career. This one has certainly been a lengthy and challenging one, but actually one that personally brings me the most satisfaction, because I really believe this is a massive game changer for ARC. This is what we've been working tirelessly on. And I thank you and our supporters out there throughout this period. And I know it's been challenging. We've had a number of hurdles to get through, but it's been worth waiting for. And this really opens up one of the most exciting chapters in ARC, in my view. So there's absolutely everything to play for. Sasha, with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Nick, could you go through the cash components of the deal again? And the question also asks whether ARC are funded now to deal completion.
So the first phase, the $3.5 million, that comes in on closing. So we obviously need to complete the conditions precedent. They're mainly regulatory consolidation of the various entities to allow Anglo to take the controlling stake in these licenses. But that's as I say, largely procedural. So we've obviously started work on that. And then, so once those CPs are satisfied, the next few weeks, we would then get the first payment of the $3.5 million into Unico, and then for the next 3 years, each year we get a further $1 million.
Thank you, Nick. So a lot of questions on a similar nature. So could you please expand upon the drilling timetable with Anglo and when it's likely to begin, and whether Anglo will be drilling this year?
That certainly is the intention. We, as I say, we've started some preliminary work already with Anglo. I'm flying down on Saturday to meet up with the Anglo teams and our teams, and Vasily is down there. Vasily's on the call, by the way. So the intention is obviously to get going as soon as we can with the advent of the dry season. So I can't say whether it's weeks or however long, but imminent is my and I think our partner's desire to get going, because we've then got a window of circa 6 months or so to start drilling. So we've as I say, we've done quite a lot of preliminary work already, and we want to get going, frankly, as soon as we can. So once we close out, we will have more information. At the moment, I can't say anything more than that for obvious reasons. Vasily, do you want to comment on anything in terms of the drilling?
Sure, Nick. Obviously, Anglo have been, they've obviously been looking at the project for a year or a bit more now, and they've obviously got in their minds what they want to do, and understand that they've in the process of appointing a drilling contractor. And like you said, I think as soon as all the CPs are done and dusted, then the drill rigs will move in.
One from Carl Eric von Bar. I'm just going to allow, and then I'll get on to the others after this one.
Hi, Nick. Hi, Vasily and Sasha. I just want to congratulate you and us all for this amazing feat. What an amazing deal you have now gotten signed. I'm very, very pleased, and I'm happy. And I don't think maybe people realize how complex it has been, or it seems to have been, given how much time has gone by without signing it. So if you could maybe give us some intel on the complexities of this deal, and why it also is so great for you in a personal way, and also I don't think people realize, I've been looking at many deals, and I've also spoken to Remy about this, given his nature of due diligence, and I cannot find any other exploration type of deal with these kinds of terms. And I'm just very, very happy to be involved. And my question really is, what now for ARC as Anglo will take over operatorship and everything? We have some cash. We have some more cash coming in. Can you paint us a picture of what you will do and what ARC should be doing in the next year to 3 1 to 3 years?
Yeah. Thanks, Carl Eric. And look, thank you for your kind comments. And yes, it has been enormously challenging and frustrating in equal measures. And one of the as we had to get rid of a number of hurdles in getting here with previous stakeholders. We've successfully got through that. Removed various legal challenges, which then opened the way for these discussions to open up properly with Anglo. And to be honest, the legal DD that a major goes through for a transaction like this are significant. It's a lot of money in anybody's books, even for an Anglo. It's a lot of money going into the ground. Just under, in total, their investment is just under $90 million. So this is not chicken feed. And I think the length of time it's taken to close this deal is reflective of the seriousness with which our partners take this transaction. So that was to be expected, and I think if anything shows a sign of the commitment we have with our partners. And by the way, I'm hugely impressed with our partners, and I think we are so lucky to have them, and I couldn't be happier to have Anglo by our side. Of course, the other hurdle was Cadastre having been closed to sort out various historic issues. That now has recently reopened, and that did hold us up as well. And we are, as you know, applying for a number of large mining licenses covering Handa and Zako, 2 in Zako and 1 in Handa. So that's work in progress, and that too took time. So these things are never straightforward, but we've done it. It's taken longer than anybody would have thought, but sometimes in life you have to be patient and let the good things happen. And we're very fortunate that an amazing thing has happened to us. So I couldn't be happier. What's next for ARC? Look, we obviously sit on the operating board of the JV in Zambia, so we will have a representation there and be actively involved with our partners. We are looking to now get on with Botswana. We've got assays that have been held up in the lab in South Africa for a number of reasons, but we hope to process those results and come back to you with the results of that over the next few weeks. Obviously, all focus has been on Zambia rather than Botswana. But that is very interesting, and that whole Kalahari Copper Belt opportunity, I think, is quite exciting. So let's see what that brings. We are looking at other opportunities both in Zambia and in other parts of Southern Africa. So we will look at that. I think, to be honest with you, with the incoming messages I've had, as people, I think, the market became clearer that this is a deal that was going to happen. I have had a number of approaches by some very respected players to look at other opportunities. So I think this transaction burnishes ARC's and the management's credentials, if I can say that without sounding too hubristic. And I think it'll open up other opportunities, because it's a deal that, as a lot of you know, we've had our naysayers who thought we would never be able to bring the bacon home, so to speak, and we have. So, can we do another equally exciting deal? Who knows? But that I think will open up opportunities. So, Carl-Eric, look, I can assure you one thing: we ain't going to be sitting back and just twiddling our thumbs waiting for the next drill results. We're a young team, we're motivated, and we have got a lot of energy, and watch the space.
Very good. So Akhtar Khan, there's a question. I'm going to unmute you now. Hopefully you're there still.
Yeah, hi Sasha, appreciate
Hi.
it, and hopefully you guys can hear me. Just conveying the same messages as the previous caller, and I think he's asked some of the questions that I wanted to ask in. I definitely want to congratulate the team in terms of what they've done, and I think it's a big, huge milestone. So congratulations all. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll try and keep them succinct. And of course, if you can't answer them for commercial reasons, I understand. So, Nick, the first question I had was around, I guess, the split of the top co. That ARC share is about 2/3, or sorry, it's 2/3 of ARC, and then a third of Kapara of the 50%, and then you've got the 50% from Anglo. I was just a bit puzzled about the Kapara investment, because as I understand it, again, it could be my ignorance, I thought originally the split of the Zako resource were 25 and 75% going towards ARC Minerals, and I know there's been some legal issues. Be interested in terms of how that percentage split over time and when that happened. That's my first question. I don't know if I'll let you answer that and then go to my second question. Thank you.
Sure, Akhtar, thank you. It's a perfectly valid question, and I will give you an absolutely straight answer. So the holdings in both Zamsort, which was originally Zamsort, and Zako were slightly different. That's because we invested more as in Zako than our partners Kapara, who, by the way, have been fantastic partners by our side. They're a second, third generation family, the Patel family in India, in Zambia, and have been very helpful as our partners along the way, and continue to be our partners going forward. So they the 72% in Zako compared to the 66% in Zamsort. And then the way it works is, we all contribute various cash contributions to the drilling and to, other administrative expenses locally. So when we decided that we were going to put all this essentially under one vehicle called Unico, we then had to look at the relative balancing of the two interests and also the historic cash contributions. So in this case, Kapara had put in slightly more cash than we had, and so basically the way the split and the maths worked after extensive analysis was the 67% that you see for ARC in Unico. Now, that's where Kapara reside at the moment. We did talk to them potentially about coming into ARC. Their preference was not at this stage, but I wouldn't rule that out going forward. Who knows? They may well be interested in coming through into ARC as a shareholder in ARC, and us taking 100% control of Unico rather than the 67. But anyway, that I hope answers your question.
Sorry, yes, it does. Appreciate that. And my last question, Nick, and I guess it's already kind of been partly answered, and again, it's probably premature, but I guess what's the goal for you guys in Zambia once drilling happens, and I guess a number of tier one assets are found? Are you hoping to potentially fund all the way through to a mine, or will it be on a case by case deal? I guess what's your vision really, if it goes to plan and the milestones are delivered by Anglo and you find a couple of tier one assets? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question, Akhtar, and it also goes back to another question that will ARC or our partners need to fund any of this $74 million of exploration expenditure over the next few years? The answer is no. So it is entirely funded by Anglo. Up to that stage to reach the 70% ownership that they'll achieve by investing that amount. So that's obviously very good news for us. To your question in terms of the hopeful discovery of a tier one type asset, look, that obviously then will require ARC to fund its portion of any capex going forward. To be honest with you, that's the least of my concerns. That's a nice problem to sit with because it means we have a massive opportunity in terms of a mine. And I don't think at that stage raising finance as a listed company, even if it is a significant amount of money, is going to be an issue because frankly, the valuation of the asset and therefore ARC is going to be very, very significant. I mean, just to give you an idea, I was looking at Columbia the other day, that the sort of net asset value of that valuation was some $2 billion, $2 billion. Now, if you just take round numbers, apply that to us by way of comparison, 30% of that, you're looking at a $600 million valuation potentially for ARC. So, are we able to raise 10, 15, 20% of that? Of course we are. I mean this is sort of looking at a game-changing scenario that you're setting out. You've seen talking about valuation, you've seen other companies, and I don't want to sort of list them, but I'm sure you know of them. One of them sits in the gold space, I think out in Australia. They started off with a similar sort of market cap as ours. They did discover something very large with a major with them in a joint venture, actually not as good as ours. That valuation went up to $1 billion at one stage. I think sits at $500 million today. So look, this is entirely feasible if we hit the mother lode, which I sincerely hope and expect we will. How long it will take, I can't say, but you've got to have luck in this game, as I've always said. But there's everything to play for here, and funding what will be or could be a tier one type operation in the capex is at this stage certainly not a concern of ours.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks, Akhtar. I think, Nick, that particular company you mentioned was covered in WH Ireland note this morning, actually. So you might, if anyone can get hold of that, or then it's worth looking at certainly this morning. I think they did point out that this is a huge game changer for ARC and how much it de-risks ARC going forward as well. So certainly something to look at.
It certainly does. And Sasha, sorry, just on that point, I mean, if I can chip in, it certainly does. I mean, somebody asked me, why isn't the share price at 8p? I can't answer that, and I think it's very dangerous for management ever to comment on the share price. That's not our job. What I can say is that when our share price was 8p, we did not have an Anglo deal or anywhere close to an Anglo deal. We're now at 4p or 4.5p, and we have an Anglo deal, which is probably the most valuable deal in the exploration sector ever seen. So, it's somewhere between 4 and 8 potentially, and it's everything to play for, as I say. The last point, just on that as well, because there are a few questions on funding. Our cash position is good. We've got enough cash to see us through until the closing of this transaction. We've also got some near cash investments in the sector that we've prudently, under Remy's leadership, have deployed some cash into, and those have done very well. So we've also got the proceeds from the CASA transaction in the form of Tingo shares, which have increased recently, and I'm very pleased with that. We've registered those shares in the US and we've opened a brokerage account. We're looking at potentially a transaction there, and then of course the actual CASA unit in Canada. We're still expecting our shares following completion of a raise that they're working on now in Canada, and so that will come through as well. And that could be quite valuable because I think they have quite exciting plans for CASA. So I'm not concerned at all in terms of our cash position or any raise. So let's dampen any of those concerns.
Very good. That deals with quite a few of the questions in the Q&A as well. So Ian Howells asked when we'll get a clarification on the licenses that are included in the JV. I think he's probably discussing the structure and makeup of the new licenses potentially. Please correct me if I'm not, Ian.
No, they're going to be essentially all consolidated under one entity, which ultimately Anglo will then hold 70% and we will hold the balance of 30%.
Okay, here's one from Simon Niven. Hi, Nick. Could you please provide some clarity on why the process to complete the deal was extended, and is there a possibility that these factors will impede progression of drilling moving forwards?
No, I don't think so. The issues have really largely been licensing and still historic legal DD by our partners, and that is a necessary process. It's by no means straightforward. The licensing, the historic licensing of all of this needed to be gone through in a lot of detail by the lawyers, both local counsel and then Anglo's counsel, and that's all been done. So that really took up the majority of our time and effort to their satisfaction to produce all the various documentation in the right formats, and then obviously also with Cadastre being closed, we had to extend that out a bit. So that was the background, but there's nothing sinister in any of this. It was simply to get through the extensive due diligence process, which I said at the outset is to be expected, particularly with a major, but also particularly when they're investing such a large amount of money in country. So that there's nothing else. Once the CPs are closed, we will simply get drilling, and that's frankly in everybody's has that as their number one desire, from the Zambian government, who we are very close to and are regular in contact with, to Anglo, to ourselves. So we all just want to get boots on the ground, and that's going to happen soon.
Thanks, Nick. There's about 3 questions on the rainy season and how that affects any potential drilling. Although we're coming out of the rainy season now, you've touched upon that, but I think the questions are specifically whether it's possible to drill through the rainy season when Anglo get involved.
Look, I'm going to ask Vasily just to chip in, but my understanding is that particularly with moving the drill rigs around in very wet conditions, some of the roads up there are not in great shape. although hopefully, we will try and improve those, and we already help grade those roads. I guess if a rig is particularly, sort of located at one area and doesn't need to be moved, maybe one can drill even if it is raining. But Vasily, do you want to update on that?
Yeah, theoretically you can drill during the rainy season, but you do have to do the preparatory work during the dry season to set the pads up and the access to the pads, so that you can drive over them when it's raining.
Thanks, Vasily. Ross, I'm going to allow you to talk. Now you have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Nick. Thanks, Sasha. Congratulations on the new deal, Nick. We appreciate you staying so steadfast in this when it came to a major and hanging for the best terms that you could have gotten. And my question is, how are you going to market this going forward? Obviously, I know it still needs to be finalized, although we've reached a binding agreement. Previously, you've mentioned institutional investors were speaking to you. Are you going to go on a bit of a PR campaign to get the name out there for ARC Minerals?
Ross, well, firstly, thanks for those comments. Greatly appreciated. Yes, we will, is the short answer. I've already had calls this morning with potential new investors led by WH Ireland, and indeed I've had a further conversation with our broker SP Angel, who are also lining up some interested parties. When I was with Anglo in my former career, my role was actually to deal with the institutions in the city here. So my contacts there are good. I think this is a time actually where our market cap, which I expect to gradually increase as we go along, becomes investable for probably a small to mid-tier institution. And so yes, I will be reaching out to those interested parties that I know, and of course the fact that we have a fantastic major together with us on this journey makes it all the more interesting, I think, for an institution to take potentially a stake in us. So again, watch that space. We will certainly be pushing that as hard as we can.
Thanks, Ross. Got another question from Terry Roos. Terry, I'm going to allow you to talk. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Good morning, Sasha. Good morning, Nick.
Hello, Terry.
Terry.
It's Terry Rouse, by the way, Sasha, but let's not argue about that. Bloody well done, Nick, and all the team. And as I promised you, I'll be sitting here with a bottle of bubbly. I definitely am this morning.
Very good. I hope it's Zambian bubbly.
Pardon?
I hope it's Zambian bubbly.
I didn't even know they did it. I'll let you bring some back. Couple of questions, and one is about local involvement. I've got the impression through this process that you've got some ideas of getting locals involved in some parts of our area. Is that still the case?
When you say local involvement, do you mean other investors into the mine?
I just wonder whether there was something specific for local people that they would be able to, because I know the Zambian government are very keen on their enterprise initiatives, and I just wonder if there was something there that we might be getting our fingers dirty with.
Well, absolutely, and look, we have already, and we've been updating our partners, our current partners, our future partner on all this, and Anglo, of course, have a very advanced framework to include local communities and empower them. So we have, wherever possible, for goods and services that we can't farm out or don't want to farm out. The best way is to farm those out to the local community where we can. When I've met with the chief Sailunga in our province there up in Muinalunga, I said to him the old adage, I'm sure you don't want us to give you the fish, you want us to give you the fishing rod, which he completely got, and that's been very much our focus. So to empower rather than just simply enrich local communities, and that it's a very historic poor area of Zambia, and we absolutely are going to look at schemes that empower the local community and Anglo, their sort of community engagement is very sophisticated and advanced, and they will be taking that over. I'm sure with us helping to give them advice and what we've done in the past. So yes, I mean, that is absolutely part of what I call our license to operate in a place like the Northwest Province of Zambia.
Okay. You mentioned about licenses, Nick. I hope you don't mind one more question on licenses.
Sure.
I just wonder whether I get the impression we've got a lot more news coming through, and you're now crossing the T's and dotting the I's on the licenses. Is there likely to be any nice surprises?
Look, I can't really answer that yet, but put it this way: I'm very happy with the footprint that we have and will have. And as I said at the outset, we are applying for large mining licenses, which I think is a very good outcome. Those are, I think, 25-year licenses in terms of the time frame, and so that's in application mode. And yes, I do hope to report some good news as we progress that with all the applications that are going to be processed at Cadastre.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Nice hearing from you.
Thank you, Terry. So going back to the Q&A board, I think there's a couple of questions, one from Adam Everett and another from Andrew Sutherland, which are pretty similar. Adam starts, you mentioned Anglo are looking to appoint a drill contractor. So will they eventually move their own machinery in, or will they use third parties? And also, additionally, do Anglo have their own labs for assays that will expedite obtaining drilling outcomes rather than to avoid any bottlenecks at the labs?
Look, I think all of that's premature, to be honest. So I wouldn't really want to comment on that with Anglo not having started any of this yet, or nor any detailed discussions. But I think it's as Vasily's mentioned before, I think they're looking at mining contractors rather than Anglo teams per se in Zambia, and on assays that's premature at this stage.
Okay, Nick. Nick, are you do you have the Q&A?
I'm just going through it now. Are we thinking days, weeks, or months until the deal is closed? I would say it's weeks rather than days, and I hope not months. Does Anglo have a drill plan? Are we ready to go once the outstanding conditions are met? I think we've answered that. The answer is yes. Everybody wants to get going as soon as possible. Can we see improved comms from the company in the form of quarterly updates? The answer is yes. And, unlike a lot of probably, 70-80% of juniors in the space who generate a lot of news flow, but actually, relatively little content, we haven't been drawn down that path because I think it's completely pointless. We're not here to ramp the share, and we see ourselves as a serious play, and when we have something to update, we will update. So, shareholders just have to be patient. We are going to now have to finish what we're doing in terms of closing out this transaction, and then obviously get the drilling going. So when we have things to report, we will report them. Our partners are very cognizant that as a listed company, we do have an obligation to report on drilling, and that will happen as and when we get started.
Thank you, Nick. We have another question from Ross.
Nick, what do you tend to do with the cash money once it's received from Anglo? What's the plans for the next, let's say, 6 months to a year? Are you going to be focusing on Botswana?
Ross, yes, I covered that. Yes, Botswana. We'll do further drilling work. We're depending on the latest assays. And then, as I say, we have actually looked and are looking at one or two opportunities in Zambia, which I think look quite interesting. And we've had one or two approaches further afield, one or two in Namibia, a further one in Botswana. I don't think we'd really want to split our focus too much out of Southern Africa, because I think I think we really need to stay focused on delivering. We've got a track record now. We've got a very good local board of directors, and who have a lot of experience in Southern Africa and the opportunities that may exist there. So, I can't give you a more detailed analysis than that, but we will put that money to good use.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Ross. Any more questions? This is there are 2 raised hands. Yes, Akhtar again.
Hey, Sasha. Yes, I thought I'd ask another question as there's time. So, Nick, and again, I think it's following on in terms of, I guess, the future. You've been primarily largely a copper explorer, and you've had gold via Casa. Have there been any thoughts from the board of actually going in and looking at lithium? And has there been, I guess, any junior explorers actually reaching out to you to see whether they could utilize you guys actually probably acquiring them and using your expertise with, I guess, seeing this Anglo-American fruition of potentially having exploration licenses turned out into similar deals? I mean, I guess really, have you had the opportunity of actually looking at buying an explorer? Thank you.
Akhtar, yes, we have been approached on lithium. I think one in Tanzania and one further afield. We haven't, to be honest, had the time to really analyze that in any detail, but yes, we will. Obviously, lithium, as you know, is the absolutely sort of number one hot metal around. So we'll be looking at that. I'm very optimistic on copper, and we love copper, as you'd expect. And as I say, if you look at the projections for copper demand, they look extremely strong, and copper supply is relatively limited. You've obviously got some new developments like in Peru, Quellaveco recently with Anglo, but really the big copper deposits, any recently new developed copper deposits, they're in very difficult places. The DRC is difficult. Russia is uninvestable. Places like the Philippines and parts of Southeast Asia are difficult. So we in Zambia, I think we're very privileged to be housed in an area that has a long track record of copper developments with an established mining framework, which you have to be very, very, very careful about and ensure that you do have the right sort of framework to govern, complex issues like licensing and so on. And they've got, as I've said before, an excellent justice system and rule of law that works. And so, this is a fantastic area to be invested in and looking for copper. So we're not going to be too distracted, because I think there are further opportunities in Zambia in copper. So we'll be looking at those. But yes, potentially lithium as well. But I don't think, never say never, but we wouldn't be looking at something like gold. That would really not be our sort of area of primary interest.
Thank you, Akhtar. Another question: do ARC and Anglo have the support of the local population for their exploration efforts?
The answer is yes. We've got very good relations with the local chieftains, and as I say, we've put a lot of effort into the local communities and efforts there, and that will only grow as Anglo and us start putting a significant amount of money into the ground there. So we do, and we pay a lot of attention to that.
Thank you, Nick. There's a question from David Ruth.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. First of all, just congratulations again. As everyone's saying, it's been a long time in the making. Really happy for all the ARC team. And also, I was just wondering on whether these drill results will be reported regularly from Anglo.
Yes, they will.
Okay. And also, will there be RNSs from Anglo-American on regular drill results?
Look, I can't speak for Anglo. I think on that one, it's unlikely, knowing how big Anglo is. Drill results out of Zambia, for a $50 billion market cap company will be will be very, won't move the needle necessarily unless they potentially hit the mother lode, in which case I'm sure they will put out an RNS. But so no, historically, I don't think the majors tend to report. It's left to the juniors, essentially, to report the results.
Okay, thank you. So it'll be coming out of ARC then, rather than Anglo, even though they'll be having the controlling stake.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, David. So look, I think that probably winds up the little conference call, and we'll certainly be aiming to keep everybody updated and further conference calls if people find that useful. And really, just to recap, this is a fantastic day for ARC shareholders. We're partnering with a major with just a huge amount of expertise in this part of the world, in Zambia. They have one of the best technical and geo teams I've seen, and a huge amount of experience, particularly with some of the local geos who've been involved in other developments in Zambia, in exploration in this part of the world. And very excitingly, we're about to start a very large drilling program, which I really hope will unearth a major tier 1 deposit. That may take a bit of time. It will definitely take a bit of time, but there's everything to play for. And most importantly, we retain a significant stake of 30%. So this is great for us. We've got a meaningful stake in the game, and obviously with Anglo, it de-risks ARC in a very, very significant way. So I couldn't be more delighted. And Sasha, thank you for hosting this, and thank you to everybody. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.